You're listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by the National Association of Convenience Stores.
Welcome to Convenience Matters. My name is Jeff Leonard. I'm with the National Association of Convenience Stores.
And my name is John Eichberg with the Fuels Institute and NACS, and this is Convenience Matters, where we talk about everything that fuels you, fuels your car, fuels your body, keeps you going. And Jeff, today I think we're talking about one of people's favorite subjects in all the world, beer.
And that cue means let's start talking about beer. We're talking about beer for a couple of reasons. First off, it is something that's pretty integral to convenience store sales. We know that two-thirds of overall sales, roughly, in the country are at convenience stores. But what we really want to focus on is some of the trends that we're seeing in beer. We both do a lot of traveling. We both visit a lot of convenience stores. And I will tell you, you'll see it in Ideas to Go at the NACS show this year. You'll see it in other Ideas to Go video broadcasts that we do. There's a real emphasis on beer in convenience stores now.
Yeah, you know, it's one of the top-selling items we have in the cooler section. It is something that people come to us for. They know they can get it. It's quick, easy. It is something that, you know, we've talked in the past, Jeff, about convenience stores were really a lifestyle shop, kind of a fun shop, especially during the hot months. Beer is part of a lifestyle. It is a beverage that all the commercials for all the breweries out there, right? They're usually, in the winter, they're on a mountain having fun. In the summer, they're on the beach. They're always having something fun, and it is definitely a lifestyle drink.
And I think, and of course, Friday nights, I think, are the busiest night or Fridays overall are the busiest day at convenience stores. But what I'm really noticing is the change in the expansion of the beer offer, where you mentioned the cooler doors. We're seeing an awful lot more in the way of growlers now. And for those of you not familiar, growlers are essentially taps that are in stores. And traditionally the model is it's a 32-ounce or 64-ounce glass container. You fill it up, you seal it up, and you're able to try essentially tap beer, draft beer that is coming out of a tap at a store. And that is a trend I've just seen accelerate and accelerate at convenience stores I visited this summer. No more so than Oregon. I just came back from Oregon and was visiting Stop and Go Mini Mart, a Shell station in Bend, Oregon. 54 taps at the gas station.
Now you think about that. So 54 is a huge amount of taps. I don't think I see too many convenience stores doing 54, but having that option is a way to differentiate yourself in the market. And let's be honest, competition's fierce. You're not only competing for time and convenience, but all things being equal, how do you get your customer to pick you over the guy down the street? And having something that sets you apart, such as a growler option, is one way to definitely do that.
Yeah, and the idea of whether it's growlers or whether it's six-packs, what we've seen is people want local. And as part of that local, it's beer. And the great thing for convenience stores is local doesn't have to mean the farmer's market where you're going to have tomatoes and peaches and whatever else is in season. It can be beer, whether it's growlers or six-packs, and it's something we know how to do well. You know,
you said local, it's interesting because in the climate where everything seems to be globalizing, manufacturing is global, trade is global, everything has international impact, yet the niche that you're just referring to is a local flavor. It kind of ties into the refresh program. Obviously, beer and refresh may not go hand in hand, but it's that community element. It's that how does the convenience store actually imprint its own flavor on the local community, embrace the local community, and demonstrate that, look, we celebrate our area and we are part of this community and you should come to our store. Having local food, local produce, local brews, absolutely an option.
And there's a business case to be made for it, because I've spoken to a couple of retailers that are doing growlers or local beer in local beers, and what they all said the same thing. Essentially, in a lot of towns there are brew pubs now. There are folks who make small batches of beers that they sell at their brew pub restaurant, and they're not big enough to do their own cans and their own bottles. They may have a growler program at the restaurant, but if you want to get that beer, you either need to go to the restaurant brew pub or you don't get it. And the cool thing about having a growler program at a convenience store is that's the vacuum. you can go to the gas station, you can go to the convenience store, and you can pick up that local beer that's at the brew pub, and you've differentiated yourself from the competition, as you mentioned earlier. It's local, and these growlers, it's inexpensive to get a really good tasting beer. Whether it's 64 ounces or 32 ounces, a lot of these places, you can take a quick sample and make sure you're getting the right one. It's essentially expansion of, if you're doing food service, it's something where you're already interacting with customers, and it's a pretty good fit with your program, and it pairs well with some of your items. If you're going to go home and you're a millennial, you can grab a sandwich, you can grab a 32 ouncer, and there's your dinner.
So let me be devil's advocate here. So I'm putting on a completely different hat, and there may be some who are concerned about the availability of basically ready-to-consume, open container beer at a convenience store or fuel retailing station. I'm not a beer connoisseur, so I've not done this, but walk me through the process. If I'm a consumer and I go and I want to fill up a growler and I want to get my car, drive home, I can't have an open container in my vehicle. So how does this differentiate?
Well, there's a couple ways, and that's a great point, because when you look at even the evolution of growlers a couple of years ago in Japan, it was more like they'd put it in a Ziploc bag and you'd seal that up and take it home, and it's a fairly cost efficient container. Then they evolved into the type of containers that are glass container. You pay a deposit for it. It may be $6, $7, something like that. And there's some sort of marked seal on it. Whether that's with tape or something like that, it's sealed, at least sealed at the retail level. And I guess there's always the same, but going forward, I guess, one of the other trends I've also noticed more and more, canned beer. And canned beer, when you buy a canned growler, of course, they have to have a shorten that, so it's called crowlers. And those are 32-ounce cans, and those are essentially as sealed as a can of beer that you'd buy out of the cooler. So
not only from a compliance standpoint with open container laws, but also from a freshness standpoint. You're going to fill up a 32-ounce growler with beer at a tap. You're going to drive home. You want to have it that evening with your dinner. You don't want it to go flat between the store and home. So having that sealing capability is got to be an absolute essential.
Yeah, and there's a couple interesting things. In the canning is a relatively new phenomenon. I've really not seen it at stores before this year, and I've seen it at grocery stores. I've seen it at gas stations. I've seen it at a variety of places. And there are a couple nice benefits to the can program. One is that generally consumers aren't doing the same deposit, that $6, $7 deposit for a glass container. Number two is, one thing that beer does not like is light. And so that's why you often, if you buy a lot of beer, you'll see that it's in a darker glass. And with a can, the light can't get in. So cans, as can technology has gotten better, you're seeing more retailers embrace it because it doesn't allow the light in, etc. And the third advantage is it's much more friendly in terms of recycling programs. And finally, at least it's worth mentioning in some areas, you can't bring glass. I've been to a great growler program or crowler program down in Miami. And one of the things he said is, look, we're the beach lifestyle. When we go and we have a party or something like that, it's at somebody's pool or it's at the beach. And the one thing that's common at these locations is no glass containers. You don't want glass to break, any barefoot people stepping on glass. So he says the crowler program is absolutely huge at some of these locations where you don't want to have glass around.
Well, I think, so we talked about crowlers and growlers, but like I said, I don't drink beer, but every time I'm on the road to somebody, they always walk up to the bar, walk up to the restaurant, the convenience store. What do you have that's local? This mindset that I want to try the local flavor is becoming pervasive across almost all sectors of people I interact with. And I assume it's much more pervasive across even more sectors.
Yeah, and it's almost like if you've been to Europe and especially Germany, pretty much every town in Germany had its own brewery, at least a couple decades ago. I'm sure it's still the same case. And so you're in town and you have that brand of beer that is in all the bars, all the restaurants. And I think we're starting to see that now, where there are much more local beers being available. And that's not to discount that we also have the major brands that also play a role. But the good news is for retailers is it's an and situation. Right. It's not an or, and we're seeing an expansion of just our overall beer sales because there are more opportunities to sell beer.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think, rising tides raise all boats. I think as the local microbrew trend gains even more traction, you get more people who are saying, I like beer. I want to have, I want to pick up some, and they become much more beer connoisseurs. And I'm going to pick up more stuff, and that kind of raised like I said, the major brands and everybody. So I think it's critical that the convenience stores continue to position themselves as the refresh capital. Whatever it is you're looking to refresh your body with, is convenience stores have it. And I think that is a great opportunity to leverage a local flavor to benefit the entire operation of your store. And we're seeing many more convenience stores do that.
So that's just one of the many trends we're seeing out on the road. If you have any that you'd like to suggest to us, go to naxonline.com/podcasts, and there's a button there. Submit some ideas. We'd love to hear from you. And thank you for listening to Convenience Matters.
You've been listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS. For more information about the National Association of Convenience Stores, go to nacsonline.com.